Charlotte already has one of the best offenses in basketball, so the worst thing they could do this summer is add more scoring. The smart move is the opposite, and it's obvious once you look at the numbers. Let me show you exactly what this rising team needs, and the kind of free agent who turns 44 wins into a playoff lock. Here's the plan. First, the hole, and Charlotte's own stat sheet points right at it. Then the archetype that fixes it. Then a realistic board of who they can actually sign with their tools. And the trap a young scoring team has to avoid. The roster facts are verified. The targets are my analysis. Let's find the hole. This is Game is Culture. Quick thing first. If you like free agency broken down by fit and not just hype, subscribe. It's free and it helps a ton. Now, the hole. The hole in the roster. The diagnosis is almost too easy. Charlotte finished 5th in offense and 3rd in three-point shooting. Elite on one end, but their defense landed only middle of the pack. That's the entire gap between a fun 44-win team and a real playoff threat. They don't need another bucket getter. They have LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and a sharpshooting rookie. They need stops. Every dollar this summer should chase defense. And it makes sense given the roster. LaMelo is a wizard offensively, but not a stopper. Miller and Newpel are young scorers, still learning the defensive end. The rookie center Ryan Kalkbrenner protects the rim, but he's thin behind him. So the team is light on exactly the players who win in the playoffs. Point of attack defenders and versatile wings who can guard the other team's best scorer. That's the specific need. And the numbers behind that middling defense tell the story. Charlotte leaked too many easy baskets in transition and struggled to contain primary ball handlers. The exact areas a top 5 offense cannot afford to bleed in a playoff series. Good regular season offenses get exposed in the postseason, when the pace slows and every possession becomes a half-court grind against a locked-in defense. That's precisely where a real stopper earns his money, and precisely where this roster was thinnest all year. And don't overlook the front court piece of the puzzle. Charlotte's center rotation leans on young, ascending bigs. The rookie Ryan Kalkbrenner and the energetic Moussa Diabate. They protect the rim, but they're raw, and a young big rotation can get bullied by veteran playoff centers who've seen everything. A steady, physical backup 5, even on a cheap deal, would anchor that group and give them a reliable option when the rookies hit foul trouble or get overpowered in a slugfest. The archetype that fits. So I scored the market on the 2 things Charlotte actually needs: defense and the ability to fit a fast, spacing offense without needing the ball. The sweet spot is the top right, a 3-and-D wing, a player who guards multiple positions and knocks down open threes off LaMelo's creation. That archetype is the perfect plugin for this exact roster, and it's the lane they should fish in. The priority order is clear. Number 1, a wing who can guard the other team's best perimeter scorer and still hit a corner 3, the classic 3-and-D piece. Number 2, a backup big with size and rim protection to support the young center rotation. Number 3, a tough veteran who sets a defensive tone for a young locker room. Everything points to the same end of the floor, the one they neglected. What they can afford. Now the realism check. Charlotte projects to have the full mid-level exception, around $14.5 million, plus the flexibility to absorb a salary in a trade. That's enough to land a quality, starting caliber 3-and-D wing, exactly the player they need. They can't sign a max defender, but the connective, two-way role players who decide playoff games, those are right in their price range. Quick halftime note. If you want the realistic version of free agency, stick around and subscribe while you're here. It's free. Now, the trap. And here's the trap a young, high-scoring team always falls into. Chasing another exciting offensive name because it's fun, and ending up with 5 guys who all want to shoot and nobody who wants to guard. The disciplined move is almost boring. A wing whose job is to defend and space, not to score. Charlotte's offense is already solved. Adding to it is a wasted summer. Fixing the defense is a playoff berth. And there's a development bonus to signing a veteran defender beyond his own minutes. Young scorers learn defense by example from a teammate who competes on every possession and holds them accountable. So the right 3-and-D vet doesn't just plug a hole in the rotation, he raises the defensive standard for Miller, Kneppel, and the whole young core. That ripple effect is worth more than the box score shows. And there's a toughness dimension that doesn't show up in any box score. Young, high-scoring teams often wilt in the physical, grinded-out games that decide playoff series because they have never had to win that way. A battle-tested veteran defender brings a different temperature, the willingness to get into a dogfight, and the standards that come with it. For a franchise that's been soft for years, importing that edge might matter just as much as the stops themselves. Culture is a need, and the right veteran sells it every day in practice. The verdict. So the target is specific and gettable. A starting caliber 3-and-D wing on the mid-level, backed by a defensive-minded big and a veteran who sets the tone. None of it is flashy. All of it is exactly what an elite offense missing a defense actually needs. Land that wing, and Charlotte's biggest weakness shrinks, and a 44-win team becomes a lock for the playoffs. That's the signing that matters. The offense will take care of itself. The summer is about finally giving this team a defensive backbone to match it, and the right wing is where that starts. And the recruiting pitch is strong. Charlotte can sell a defender on the best role imaginable. Play next to a 5-out, top 5 offense. Get open threes off LaMelo's passing, and be the guy who finally pushes a fun young team into the playoffs. For a two-way role player, that's an appealing home and a clear job. The Hornets aren't just buying a player, they're offering him a perfect fit. Where could I be wrong? If the front office believes the young core's defense will naturally improve with age, they might spend the money on more offense or save it entirely. That's a gamble on growth, but the data this year was loud. The offense is real, and the defense is the ceiling. The fastest path up the standings runs through the defensive end, and that's where I'd point the checkbook. So that's the board. A two-way wing first, a backup big second, a defensive culture vet third, all within budget. Who would you target with Charlotte's money? And next video, the full roster construction scenarios. Tell me your pick below. And we are so close to 1,000 subs, so subscribe to stay up to date.